Everyone sees the aircraft carrier, a massive nuclear-powered warship carrying dozens of aircraft across the ocean. But if you look at USS Carl Vinson and see only a carrier, you are missing the most important part of the story. Because Carl Vinson was never designed to fight alone. Around that ship is an entire system of aircraft, destroyers, sensors, command networks, logistics, and thousands of sailors. Together, they form something far more powerful than a single warship, a carrier strike group. And that raises a question. If the aircraft carrier is not the real weapon, then what is? USS Carl Vinson, or CVN-70, is a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier commissioned in 1982. For decades, it has served as one of the most powerful mobile aviation platforms in the US Navy. But its greatest advantage is not simply the size of the ship. It is what happens when the ship becomes the center of an entire combat system. When its air wing is embarked, Carl Vinson becomes a mobile airbase capable of operating dozens of aircraft far from American territory. The ocean becomes its runway. The carrier can move thousands of miles while bringing its aircraft, maintenance facilities, fuel, weapons, and personnel with it. That alone makes the ship extraordinary. But it also creates a problem. The more valuable the carrier becomes, the more important it is to protect it. And that is why Carl Vinson does not operate alone. Surrounding the carrier are other warships that provide additional sensors, weapons, and defensive capabilities. These escorts help protect the carrier from threats approaching through the air, across the surface, or beneath the ocean. But the real power comes from the fact that these ships do not simply travel together. They operate together. Information collected by one platform can contribute to the overall picture seen by the entire formation. An aircraft may detect something far from the carrier. A destroyer may track it. Another aircraft may investigate it. Commanders can combine information from multiple sources and decide how the force should respond. The weapon is therefore not located in one ship. It is distributed across the formation. And then there is the air wing. Carl Vinson can operate aircraft designed for completely different missions. F-35C. Lightning II fighters provide stealth and advanced sensing capabilities. F/A-18 Super Hornets provide versatile fighter and strike capabilities. EA-18G Growlers specialize in electronic warfare. E-2D Advanced Hawkeyes extend the group's ability to detect and understand activity over a much larger area. Helicopters provide additional capabilities at sea. Each aircraft is powerful on its own, but the real advantage appears when they work together. The F-35 may detect something. The E-2D may provide a wider view. The Growler may influence the electromagnetic environment. The Super Hornet may deliver the strike, and the carrier provides the infrastructure that allows all of them to return, refuel, rearm, and launch again. This is what turns Carl Vinson into more than a ship. It becomes a mobile air force. But even that is not the whole story. A carrier strike group can only remain powerful if it can remain supplied. Aircraft require fuel and spare parts. Weapons must be replenished. Machinery requires maintenance. Thousands of sailors need food, water, medical support, and other supplies. That means logistics is not an invisible support function. It is part of the weapon. A carrier strike group that can fight for one day is impressive. A carrier strike group that can maintain operations for months is strategically valuable. And Carl Vinson has repeatedly demonstrated that endurance. Its 2024 to 2025 deployment lasted roughly 9 months and took the strike group across the areas of responsibility of the U.S. 3rd, 5th, and 7th Fleets. The force operated in the Western Pacific and the Middle East. It participated in multinational exercises. It conducted freedom of navigation operations. And it carried out combat operations in the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility. That deployment reveals what the carrier strike group is really designed to do. It is not simply a group of ships sailing from one port to another. It is a mobile military system capable of moving between strategic regions while maintaining combat capability. And mobility is one of the carrier's greatest advantages. A land-based airbase is tied to geography. Carl Vinson is not. It can move, it can change its operating area, and it can bring its own airfield with it. That gives American commanders options. A carrier strike group can conduct exercises with allies. It can reassure partners. It can protect maritime interests. It can conduct freedom of navigation operations. And when ordered, it can conduct combat operations. The same force can therefore perform very different missions without needing to rebuild itself every time the strategic situation changes. But modern naval warfare is making the environment more dangerous. Long-range anti-ship missiles are becoming more capable. Submarines remain a serious threat. Unmanned systems are changing surveillance and targeting. Electronic warfare can interfere with communications and sensors. A carrier may be extremely powerful, but it is also extremely valuable. That is why the Navy relies on layers of defense. Aircraft extend the group's reach. Escorts provide additional protection. Sensors search for threats. Electronic warfare complicates an opponent's ability to detect and target the force. And the carrier strike group can distribute its capabilities across multiple platforms instead of placing everything in one location. This is another reason the carrier itself is not the real weapon. The carrier depends on the system around it. And the system depends on the carrier. They strengthen each other, but none of it works without people. Inside Carl Vinson are thousands of sailors performing highly specialized jobs. Some operate aircraft, some maintain engines, some handle weapons, some control aircraft on the flight deck, some operate the ship's nuclear propulsion systems. Others manage communications, navigation, logistics, maintenance, and countless tasks that keep the ship operational. Then there are the personnel of the embarked air wing. Together, they turn an enormous machine into a functioning combat organization. The flight deck is where that complexity becomes visible. Launching an aircraft from a carrier is not a normal takeoff. The ship is moving. The aircraft are surrounded by other aircraft and equipment. Every movement must be coordinated. The catapult accelerates the aircraft from the deck. After the mission, the pilot must return to a moving runway and catch an arresting wire. Then the aircraft must be inspected, refueled, rearmed, and prepared for another mission. And this process can continue day and night. That is what makes a carrier strike group so difficult to operate. It is not just a collection of advanced machines. It is thousands of people, machines, and procedures functioning together with very little room for error. Carl Vinson's recent deployment demonstrated the scale of that system. The strike group operated across multiple regions, trained with allies, conducted maritime operations, and participated in combat. Then, after roughly 9 months away, it returned to San Diego in August 2025. The deployment was a test of more than the carrier. It tested the entire system: the aircraft, the escorts, the command structure, the logistics chain, the maintenance teams, and the people operating all of it. That is the hidden story behind USS Carl Vinson. From a distance, it looks like one enormous warship, but the closer you look, the more complicated it becomes. The carrier is a runway. The air wing is the striking arm. The escorts form additional layers of defense. The sensors provide awareness. The communications network connects the force. Logistics keeps it moving, and the sailors make the entire system work. So what is the real weapon? It is not simply the carrier. It is not the aircraft. It is not the destroyers. It is the integration of all of them. That is what makes a carrier strike group so powerful. One platform sees something, another processes the information, another protects the force, another delivers the effect, and the carrier keeps the entire aviation component moving thousands of miles from home. That is the real advantage, not just firepower. Integration, not just size. Mobility, not just technology. Coordination, and that may be the most important thing to remember when looking at USS Carl Vinson. The ship is impressive by itself, but the ship is only the center. The real weapon is everything built around it. Because in modern naval warfare, the most dangerous force may not be the ship with the biggest deck. It may be the force that can see farther, communicate faster, move farther, protect itself, sustain itself, and bring all of its capabilities together at exactly the moment they are needed. That is what Carl Vinson represents. Not simply an aircraft carrier, but an entire combat system built around one.